Your business can only grow as much as you're willing to grow. And trust me, in my journey, I have learned that so hard. And I know that you might be feeling that too. And so today we're talking about the mindset shift that is going to help you move from maybe inconsistent 5K months to the consistent 10 and 20K months that I know you are deeply desiring. What's going on, coaches? Welcome to the podcast. Before we dive into this week's juicy content, I want to share something that I have been doing a lot of this summer, and that is working with clients in full VIP days. And you might be wondering, what the heck is that? So I wanted to share what happened for one of my clients that jumped on, and I got to spend the whole day with her. She's actually a personal trainer and is working for a well-known fitness club and is really feeling like she has this expertise that goes beyond the walls of the gym. She has so much life experience. She's been on her own personal transformation. She's been underpaid for the expertise that she offers. And I know you get that too. You're brilliant at what you do. You're an overachiever. You're like, I want to be paid for this passion and this expertise that's inside of me. So she came to me and she said, Amanda, I would love for you to just take all the stuff that's in my head and just tell me where to start. And I know sometimes that can be the very thing that holds you back. And we were able to help her really zone in. She has a specific niche in the health and nutrition space, and that's helping people that have been utilizing GLP-1s and maybe other weight loss prescriptions and wean off of them to live a balanced lifestyle. And I mean, we need this so much right now. And so in one day, we helped her build out her entire business model from the specificity of who she was going to be coaching. So she stood out different than other health coaches in the industry, how she was going to offer that coaching, how she was going to measure results, the framework and the process, her client journey, how she was going to price it, how she was going to market herself, and everything in between. And in one day, she was like, I cannot even believe that we got all of this accomplished. She feels like she has like this green light ahead of her to step into it fully. And I know you want that too. So if you are someone that would love to join me for a VIP day, we can do them online, virtually via Zoom, or we can find a place in Arizona to come together to do them live. I would love to support you to bring the ideas that are in your brain into fruition. So you stop wasting time, you stop wasting money, and you really get paid to do what you're good at and what you love. So if you're interested in chatting more about that, head on over and book a time on my calendar so I can learn about you. The calendar link is amanda-walker.com/let's chat. All one word, lowercase, LETSCHAT. And that link will be right in the show notes as well. Welcome to this week's episode of the Best Damn Coach podcast. I am so pumped you are here because we are talking about how to shift your mindset to a 20K beyond mindset. Now, what I'm going to share today, the title of this episode is how to make this mindset shift that took me specifically from 5 to 20K months consistently. However, and it's helped me beyond the 20K months. The reason I'm sharing this, I was actually inspired by one of my mentors. Shout out to Colin. He recorded an episode similar to this. And I thought, my people, many of you are listening to this podcast because you're consistently making that 2 to 5K per month, but you really dream of that consistent 10K and 20K months where it feels effortless, where you have a regular machine and system in your business where you can kind of guarantee that recurring income. You feel some sort of semblance like, I know it's working and I can get there. You start to feel like you have that consistent impact. You're replacing that corporate income and you're like, okay, this thing is absolutely doable. And so I went back, I rewound time, and I went back to the early days of Amanda in order to really tap in and ask myself, what are some key things I did to shift my business into the consistency? And it really wasn't a strategy thing, to be honest. I'm still always working on strategy. I think it's a really big piece of the puzzle. But I think that sometimes we discredit the internal work that was necessary because that internal stuff, the things, the belief systems underneath it, the way we're operating through that particular belief system or operational system, the lens through which we've been living life is not able to support the capacity for bigger things. And so for me, like before even making 5K, there were some things I had to do to even begin to explore the idea of somebody paying me for services to even make my first couple $100 a month. But the capacity for which I held myself and the belief systems then needed to shift for me to make even 2K a month, which needed to shift to get to 5K, to 10K, to 20K, to 40K and beyond. And so I really just want to be transparent with you that if you are beating your head against the wall and expecting a different outcome and using the same strategy and not working on yourself, I just wonder if you're going to keep getting that same outcome over again, because it is the inside stuff that has to carry us so that we break through the ceilings and the capacity that's often self-imposed on this journey of entrepreneurship. That's why inside the Best Damn Coach, I mean, honestly, anytime you coach with me, we can't help but work on the mindset while we work on the strategy, because that is where we break open the unconscious belief systems and we can begin to rewire them and explore what's possible for you to get to that next level. So I just want to give context for this episode that I believe this is really powerful in your journey, and this episode alone is going to help you really reframe some things to hit that next milestone for you. And please tell me how this episode lands for you. Please send me a DM. I would be so delighted to talk to you. I want to take you back to the early days when I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, when I was winging it very clearly, completely, going off of gut instincts, doing whatever felt right, letting my emotions drive my business. Honestly, pretty disorganized, had zero systems. I absolutely forgot to invoice people sometimes. I didn't send them invoices. There were months would go by and I was like, oh, dang, so-and-so hasn't paid me for 6 months. Like, it's too late now. I can't go ask them to send me money now. And when people would ask me about my business, I would totally downplay it. Like, it's just a side hobby. It's just this little business thing. I mean, it's nice. Like, any money it makes me is kind of gravy, and extra money was fun. And then something shifted in me. And that shift took me from these kind of under 5K months that were fairly inconsistent. I'd have one and then it'd go away for a while and then come back, and bringing me into consistent 20K months. And today that's exactly what I'm going to share with you. And it's not really what you think. I think some of these will be kind of obvious, but some are not going to be. Like painting the picture of in the beginning, my business was really an afterthought. And that's because I was raising tiny humans, 4 and 6 at the time. I also was coaching CrossFit and picking up like odd tutoring jobs. And so with whatever leftover time, usually in nap time or night time when the kids were down and Justin was working nights, I would dig into business. And at the time, I didn't track my profit. I was getting paid through PayPal. Some people paid me. I forgot to send invoices. Like I said, I didn't have systems. So I was just grateful, honestly, for whatever money was coming in. And business planning, I just did not know what the heck I was doing. So I wasn't even really planning. I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants and just honestly just living in gratitude. And here's how I always operated. Like if it just went away, it'd be okay. But inside, I was like, I freaking love this. I could make this bigger. So I had these parts of me, this part of me that wanted to play safe and not count on it. And this part of me that was like, girl, you are meant for big things and you are only scratching the surface of your potential. And I know that as you listen, you have those parts too. And those parts are both for our good, right? They want to keep us safe and they want us to not be in discomfort. And ultimately, they want us to live out our truth and our purpose. And when we can bring these parts together, that is where the magic happens. But here's what's crazy is even with a super haphazard approach, things really started working, right? For the first year, I made like 10 to 12K. Don't know because I didn't track. Second, I doubled that. I was around like 20-ish K. And by year 3, I had replaced my teaching salary. And that's when I was like, okay, this is consistently going well. And I had this moment, wait a minute. If I could replace my teaching salary, is it possible that I could have consistent $5,000 to $10,000 a month, that Justin could work less off duty, he could be home more, that we could go on more vacations, that we at the time could, stay out of debt? And what if I could make 20? So all this like energy of possibility came up, but I quickly realized that I had a problem. I could not keep doing things that way if that's where I wanted to go. And the mindset that got me to those like 36, basically 40,000 the third year was not going to be what I needed to keep going. And so this is really when I hired my first coach, like shout out to her. That's when I made one of the best investments of my life. And to be honest, she was called herself a business coach and she was not a business coach. She was decent at strategy, but she was amazing at personal growth and taught me this concept called limiting beliefs, which I laugh at now, but I had no idea what that was. But what she absolutely did was help me grow as a person. She helped me see that the capacity of my business was based on the internal growth of me as a woman and the belief system that I operated from. And so together, we really identified these three limiting beliefs that were holding me back. And to be frank, there's a whole host of them more. I just pulled out three today that I think are pretty relatable, that I think you might be struggling with too, and what they meant for me and what I think they might mean for you right now. So, limiting belief number one, which I said over and over, is I don't know what I'm doing. I was constantly in this imposter syndrome mode, thinking I needed to know everything and I had to have it perfect. And that if I didn't, I couldn't charge more and I couldn't serve more people. And I was paralyzed by the idea of someone asking me like a question I couldn't answer. And also that I also used that as a default when I felt overwhelmed or I felt dumb. Because here I am, college educated, master's degree. I was an extremely exceptional teacher. I was a master at my craft. And now I'm put in a position of being a beginner again. And my Enneagram 8 ego does not love things like that. And so that would be like a safety protective mechanism that I would often do when I was just in overwhelm and it wasn't a fact. So limiting belief number two, this was such a self-preservation technique. It doesn't really matter if I make money. Like I don't need to work. Like everything's gravy. Everything's extra. And this one was sneaky because there was some truth in it. I didn't actually have to work. We'd adjusted our lifestyle and really I'd left teaching in order to stay at home with the kids. So I didn't need to quote unquote work. But I'd also learned that I was not meant to be a stay-at-home mom. Love my kids more than anything in the world, but being home full time and not having a separate passion and thing I can pour myself into is just not for me. It totally can be for other moms. It's just not Amanda. And even talking about that out loud right now feels so freeing because I was afraid to even say that for so many years because I thought, man, what if they think I'm a horrible mom? But I had this narrative that making money was not important. And so I was unconsciously rejecting money, right? Because if it came in, I was like, meh, if it doesn't happen, it's no big deal. But inside, if I got a no from a potential client, I was like, what the heck? I'm really good. But I did that to feel safe. But underneath was this fear of success and a fear of what people would think if I made too much money. And I had two occasions that are very hard for me still in one of my best friend relationships at the time as my business was growing, and on two different occasions when I shared with her maybe the first time I signed a 6K client, she reflected back to me, somebody's going to pay you that? And it like crushed me, totally crushed me. And so it locked in and deepened that belief, like, what are people going to think, that I'm greedy, that I make too much money? And so that limiting belief was deep for me, especially coming from a place where we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And my parents worked super hard for their money. And we had thoughts about quote unquote rich people and what they make. And so I was really having to undo a lot of that. And I know you likely are undoing that as you go through entrepreneurship. I see you and I love you and I get you. Limiting belief number three was probably the biggest, is what are people going to think of me? I've shared this story so many times that I didn't have social media year one, year two, it was just pictures of food. Finally, year three, I started sharing my face, but I was terrified that people would call me out for saying something wrong. I felt like the nutritional PhDs and business PhDs were flocking my page, just waiting to troll me. Not true at all. I felt like my friends or quote unquote acquaintances were snickering behind the scenes. I had all these stories that weren't true because people's lives are busy. Like they don't have freaking time to even think about Amanda and what she's doing. I worried about family members and what they'd think of me and me showing up as this new version of myself. And so it definitely kept me small, when in actuality, now I can see that none of that judgment was a truth other than the judgment that I was making of my own self. And so these things I had to shift in order to step into the next level of me. In fact, in order to shift my identity. And what was happening at that time is I was like in this purgatory of the old Amanda who's coming into entrepreneurship that knows what it's like to be 9 to 5, to be paid a salary, to rely on that consistency. I was stuck in this Amanda that's like, this is a side hustle. This is just gravy. And your identity becomes the reality for which you experience your business. If you're calling it a side hustle and you're thinking it's a side hustle and you're holding the beliefs, it reconfirms that it is just going to be a side hustle. And so if you want out of that, the number one, stop calling it a damn side hustle or a baby business or a baby podcast or it's just this little thing. You need to delete that out of your vocabulary. I'm going to talk about why in just a moment. And it's because you have to become this identity, right? The identity that you embody and that you own is something that is so critical to the success of your business. And it's nothing new. It's nothing new. It's nothing you haven't already done. So for example, when you are leaving high school, you have to step into the identity of being a college student in order to be successful in college. You have to manage your own schedule. You have to do your homework. You don't have mom or dad bringing down your neck. You don't have high school teachers. You have professors who don't give a crap if you fail or pass. When I became married, I then now am shifting my identity as a single engaged person or an engaged person into becoming a wife who now has to think and do things differently in order to operate and create a successful marriage. When I became a mom, my identity shifted yet again. So you've had all these iterations of identity shifting. It's just that entrepreneurship for whatever reason, like I didn't see it that way. I didn't really even know this concept of identity shift. But in each of these examples, I had to let go of the old ways of thinking and being to step into the new ways of showing up so that I could become that thing. So I could become an amazing mother, an amazing wife, an amazing college student. But I just never applied this to business initially. And I didn't forever want to be the girl that just dabbles. I wanted to be a success story. I wanted to be somebody who builds this thriving legacy and shows my kids this is what's possible. So I had to start asking myself different questions. And it wasn't about which strategy works. Like those are important things. But I had to ask myself this huge question is, who do I need to become in order to have consistent 20K months? How does this future version of Amanda that doesn't yet exist, how does she think differently? How does she behave differently? How does she act differently? Just how does she operate in her environment? Who does she around? Like what's in her environment? And I want to be clear, identity shifting work is not like this fake it till you make it stuff. I don't agree with that. It's genuinely about stepping into this future version of you with the best information you have wrapped around you in order to become that thing. And so there's 3 shifts that I made that I want to share with you today that I think were really critical in helping me make this shift. Number 1, it was deciding to be like cannonballing in the pool of my business. Like I am all in. I'm not calling it a baby business. It's not a side hustle. This is my business and I am the CEO, which felt so weird to say because who was I to call myself a CEO, a founder, an owner, whatever word, but that's how I want you to start referring to yourself. I'm the founder of the Best Damn Coach. I'm the owner and creator of the Best Damn Coach. Whatever word vibes with you best, use it. If you're in my world, I don't want you to tell me you're running a baby business. It's not a baby business because it'll just be that. It'll be just a baby business forever. I also had to create dedicated work hours. So I had to start showing up like I was operating a business and not just fit it in the nooks and crannies. I had to start investing in proper systems and tools and support. It was no more Frankensteining things. I had to invest in a real email marketing system, not just the cheapy freebie one. I had to start talking about my business as though I'd served 1,000 clients, even though I'd served not even 100 maybe by that point. But I started making decisions in a way that was like, okay, what's best for the business, not what's convenient, which was huge. So even though I had never run a company, I'd never even been in corporate, I'd never been around sales and marketing, I had to start thinking about like what's best. Just like in the classroom, like what's best for my students and operating this thing called the classroom. That's how I had to treat my business. So I had to really make this internal shift that like, I am worthy of calling myself a CEO. Like I'm risking everything. I'm building this thing from scratch. Very few people will do that. And I had to stop treating it like a hobby where I accidentally made money. And I had to really create this structure. And I hope that really just lands for you because it was really powerful for me. Number 2, I had to change my environment. I needed to set up a dedicated workspace. Like, here's the thing. You can't become a 20K a month business owner when you are surrounded by mental, physical, people junk. So I had to create like a dedicated workspace. So at the time, I set up a real office in my spare room. I would close the door. We use this yellow light, green light, red light system when the kids could know to come in or not. I set dedicated work hours. That means sometimes I had to get up at 5. Some things never change. I still do that, especially in the summer months. So I can be with the kids in the afternoon. I had to treat it like I was running an office. And that doesn't mean that you're rigorous. That means it doesn't have to be the same every day. It just means that there's flexibility. But I had to carve out real space. So I had dedicated work hours. I had to also change the environment of I needed to be around more entrepreneurs. So I invested in, coaching where people like me were. I invested in masterminds eventually where people were ahead of me. I was in networking groups. I would meet for coffee chats. I would meet for virtual coffee chats. I had to surround myself with entrepreneurship so that I was in the energy of possibility. And I felt like, okay, these people are like me. I also had to honestly adjust some friendships, which was hard because that new version of me was hard for people to accept. And I hear that. And I had to distance myself from like some of the negativity and comments, which is definitely not easy all the time. So I realized that if I'm going to think bigger, I needed to be in an environment that felt free and energetic, like it energized me. Oh, and I often had to go when I could to work from coffee shops because I felt invigorated. I still do that. But I need to also be around people that raise my potential. And that was so, so powerful. And that will never stop. That's not going to change even in the 100K months. And lastly, and the most important part of this whole conversation is I had to start operating as if. And this is the biggest game changer for me is I had to do everything as if I've already done it and as if I was already her. So I had to say, if I was a woman with 20K months, how would I launch this workshop? If I was the coach already making 20K months, how would I follow up? If I was the coach already making 20K months, what would I wear? If I was the coach, you get it. So it was acting as if. So that meant wearing the bold lip color, wearing the outfit, like channeling confidence when I was in conversations, setting boundaries that were maybe ahead of me for the 20K that felt uncomfortable in order to scale into the 5K, or from the 5K. So I had to start asking, if I was that woman, how would I get 10 more clients? What systems? How do I act as if? If I was making 20K, I would get support. It's when I started hiring my first low-level VA. But I had to start asking myself this as if possibilities in order to get there. So for me, it was so potent to make these internal shifts. And over time, what happens is this is a compound. Let's be clear. Like tomorrow, this isn't just going to get you 20K months. It's not that. It wasn't chance either. It was consistent. It was the compound effect of shifting my identity and then taking the actions that aligned with that new version of Amanda, that new identity. And as I began making these shifts, the strategies just started working better. I wasn't afraid of them. I didn't feel imposter syndrome. I didn't feel less than. The doubt faded. And the things I was doing that felt like they barely moved the needle, like hosting workshops where like 1 or 2 people, I started getting 50 and 100 people signed up because it was this energy of attraction and being that was so powerful. And so if you're listening to this and just thinking, Amanda, I'm exactly where you are. I'm making some money. I want to get above, like into this 15K, 10K, 20K I would ask myself these questions. Am I treating my business like it's a little baby business? Am I surrounding myself with the people, the places, the things that really energize me? Am I acting as if on a consistent basis? And here's why I say that is I know you already have everything you need inside of you. That for me is certain. What you might be missing is the environment, the identity shift, someone to hold you accountable. And if that is you, then this is the work we do inside the Best Damn Coach consistently. This is a place where I am going to ask you. This is how we operate in all of our sessions. Right? Because the coach that effortlessly attracts the right clients into their world and creates the income they desire, they are operating in that energy, not lack, not scarcity. And so if that's you and you're ready, you're like, yes, Amanda, I want to know more. Again, hop on my calendar at amanda-walker.com/let's chat, LETS CHAT. And I would love to learn more about you and your business and how I can support you to get into those consistent 5, 10, 15, 20K months wherever you are at. So again, just a reminder, your business only grows as much as you do and as much as you're willing to push the threshold. For me, it's actually not about the money that I'm asking myself consistently. It's asking myself, am I shifting the capacity of being that version of Amanda that's going to be capable of doing the thing that I want to do? And the more you ask that question, the more you're going to see that everything falls in line for you. So until next week, go coach them up.